Okay, just a quick video today. So I'm reading The Feminist Mystique, which is the beginning of second wave feminism, and beginning of the NWO. So I'm about 100 pages through right now. And there was a quote that there are many quotes that are very interesting to me, but I wanted to talk about. She's talking about first wave feminism in the book, in like the 1800s, just after, so like the beginning of feminism, and like how women got the right to vote, and talking about like women's fight for abolitionism and things like that. That women have always been fighting for these things. They might not necessarily change things, but they're working on these things, and that there are women who will fight for certain things, even if they're not successful in those endeavors. There are women who will fight for the benefit of womankind. So there's a couple quotes. One of the quotes that she said in the book was, when talking about some of the earliest feminists, they said, "She has always insisted in the bitterest days of the fight for women's rights that woman's enemy was not man. We do not fight with man himself, but only with bad principles." And I think that's something that women today, when they say, "Oh, I'm not a feminist. Oh, I'm not a feminist. I'm not a feminist," they think that feminists have a problem with men, that feminists have a problem with husbands and men and all of those things, and they haven't read up on feminists. They don't know anything about feminist theory. They think that it's just man, because since the beginning of feminism, a lot of their critics have labeled feminists as man-haters. And so it's like, if you are a feminist, you are... Here, I'll give a quote. "The image of the feminism as inhuman, fiery man-eaters, whether expressed as offensive against God or in the modern terms of sexual perversion, is not unlike the stereotype of Black people as primitive animal or the union member as an anarchist. What in the sexual terminology hides is the fact that the feminist movement was a revolution." So it's supposed to be that critics will always go to those extremes to try to make it seem like that say the worst things of people as possible, to try to make them seem inhuman, because they're doing something as a way of furthering the rights of women, Black people, union members. So the early feminists had created a new world for women, in which they had autonomy. And so they had to make a choice about what they could do with themselves. And so they had to make a choice, and this is a choice that my generation had to make, and I think every subsequent generation has to make when they come of age. And it's that identity crisis that you make as a woman when going to college, when forging your identity. It's definitely a personal choice, but it becomes a systemic choice as well, about what type of person you want to be. And I think that we're seeing some of the cultural fallout of some of the identity choices that women have made in 2016, 52% of college-educated white women voting for Trump. Remember the 52% voting for Trump? That was part of this cultural identity of white women voting for Trump. And then again in 2020 voting for Trump. That white women do not have women's backs. They had truly outgrown the old image. They were finally free to choose to be. But what choice were they offered? In that corner, the fiery, man-eating feminist, the career woman, loveless, alone. In this corner, the gentle wife and mother, loved and protected by her husband, surrounded by adoring children. And it's like, it's not one or the other. You can be a feminist. You can be a feminist and be a mother. And they basically made it seem like, oh, you can be a feminist and be one of those man-eating feminists, or you can be a loving mother protected by your family and your children. And it's like, it's not one or the other. You can be a feminist and be a mother. And so I think that's what we're seeing as far as like influencers online now. It's like they are doing this like intimacy vlogging online where they show the intimate details of their life, about like mommy vlogging and vlogging about like and like you see that like empty, because Betty Friedan talks about like the emptiness of motherhood, that there's a certain amount of emptiness. And I think that goes hand in hand with like mass consumerism, and like you're trying to fill a void within yourself. So you'll watch videos on like YouTube, or watch like Netflix, or like watch shows on TV to try to fill a void. But like this mass consumerism of like things like the teddy bear cup, or even before like the Stanley Cups, trying to fill that void that motherhood brings, because there's so much stress with either being a stay-at-home mother, or because there's a certain amount of you do it and it's not as fulfilling being a stay-at-home mother, or you get a job and you're working the job and expected to do all the stuff at home, and there's not help from your husband to do half the chores at home, and you're stuck just performing and doing all of the things at home because you're expected to be the breadwinner and the stay-at-home mom. You're expected to do it all. And so there's like this empty consumerism of trying to fill the void of being everything. And I think that's why we have a mental health crisis in this country. But I'm trying to form ideas about what it means to be, because I keep thinking about like, we have these ideas online about what it means, because through the rise of intimacy vlogging with people like Alexandra Rodriguez, and through Amberlynn Reed and through like Foodie Beauty, who are extremely problematic. Like if you have a certain level of morality and behaviors, if you see like bad behaviors online, if you see certain behaviors online, you're going to feel a certain way about it. But good behavior, good person, bad person, we start ranking these behaviors. Who is good? Who is bad? And Girl World starts on a very superficial level. It does. It starts on a very superficial level with the weight loss journey. And when an influencer fails a weight loss journey, we see it as a moral failing. We see it as they have not snapped to you and fallen in with the expectations of society. You know, if they stumble, if they fall, they're not march stepping with the expectations of society. If they're not constantly progressing towards a goal, or if they're not constantly losing weight. And I see this through the use of good weight loss vlogs such as Jennifer Madison, who has lost 50 pounds, but she has to constantly reassert, I've lost 50 pounds. But even now, she's still, even though she's at a healthy weight, she's constantly like, I have to lose weight, I have to lose weight, I have to lose weight. I'm not, there's never going to be quite an end goal weight. And so it's that constantly like perfecting and tweaking the body and working on the body and using the body as a project, as an influencer, of defining what is good. And that's part of the intimacy vlogging. It's like, I'm thinking out loud here. It's sort of like, it's what do I want to say? It's like it gives women something to do. Here's a quote. The feminine mystique permits, even encourages women to ignore the question of their identity. The mystique says they can answer the question, who am I, by saying, I'm Tom's wife, Mary's mother. And that's like, by weight loss goes into that question too. Like, by saying I'm Tom's wife, I'm Mary's mother, by saying I'm doing these things that make me a better person, as like I'm doing these things that make me a better person. And like even having a job, it's like it makes me more functional as a person within these cogs of industry. It's saying that it ignores the question of their identity because it's within these surface level things. When we use weight as, and it's fine if you want to lose weight. It's fine if you want to lose weight. I should permit that. I'm losing weight myself. I'm working on losing weight for health. You can lose weight. That's not the point. The point is when you deem someone good or bad as to whether or not they have lost weight or not. When you say that when you start making it a moral failing because they have not lost weight. when you start making the comments of things like Pocahontas, and because they've gained weight, and maybe it's an obscene amount of weight, but it's sort of like, yeah, it's sort of like most people will agree upon what is good, what is healthy, what is a certain thing, because they see women within a certain role within society, and women have to fit within this narrow view of what a good and bad woman is. So a good woman would be people like Jennifer Madison, but a bad woman would be people like Amberlynn Reed, because they fit within like a narrow view of what a woman's supposed to do and be and act like. And how they've curated, and even how they curate their audiences. Anyway, I'm just putting that out there. I'm not going to edit this. I'm just like, and this is just kind of, I'm just thinking out loud. I'm still reading The Feminine Mystique, but I just kind of wanted to do like a baseline, like applying The Feminine Mystique to people like Amberlynn Reed, and get my basic thoughts about the situation, because this is just half formed. I should say this is just half formed, so feel free to disagree with me in the comments. I want to have a discussion about this because I have thoughts about this, but yeah, it's sort of like, yeah, I think that, you know, we have ideas about what good and bad is when it comes to certain YouTubers, that certain YouTubers are good and certain YouTubers are bad based on our notions, our ideas. And so, and we have like this idea of what good is and what bad is, and if you don't fit within that view, like, we come with all of our expectations, and if you don't fit within those expectations, and I think the algorithm pushes those expectations of, look at this bad person, look at this good person, and yeah, and even good people can turn bad, and bad people can turn good, have redemption. It's like good people have redemption arcs, and bad people have redemption arcs, and good people have falls from grace, and it's like that constantly. Yeah. So I was just thinking about that. Okay, I gotta go get my laundry. But and I think it's all meant to, I don't know, be a distraction of sorts. Be a distraction. That's what that's what the internet is. It's just one big distraction. To fill the void. Now I'm getting into communistic expressions. Communistic expressions of communistic critique of society. Hello, kitten. Okay, I gotta go. Let me know what you think in the comments. Let me know the things. I'll see you on the next one. Bye.